The night was dark and heavy with rain. The sky groaned with thunder, and the ground was covered in mud. In the silence of the storm, one figure moved slowly along the narrow path. A woman, her clothes wet and torn, carried a small bundle in her arms. The bundle was not cloth or food. It was her daughter. The little girl's face was pale, her lips dry. Her eyes were closed, but her chest rose and fell weakly. She was alive, but only just. The woman's steps shook as she walked, but she did not stop. She whispered to herself again and again, "Just one night. Just one night of food." Ahead, at the end of the road, stood a lonely house. Its windows glowed faintly with light, a warm golden light that cut through the storm. The woman's heart beat faster. She had heard about this house. A man lived there, alone. No one in the village dared to go near him. They said he was strange. Some said he was dangerous. But tonight, she had no choice. She reached the wooden door and knocked with trembling hands. For a long moment, nothing happened. She pressed her ear to the wood, and all she heard was the storm. Her hope began to fade. Then, suddenly, the lock clicked. The door opened a little, and a tall figure stood inside. The man looked at her silently. His face was calm but unreadable. His eyes, sharp and dark, studied her and the child in her arms. The woman felt her throat close, but she forced herself to speak. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, feed my daughter. She hasn't eaten in 3 days." The man did not move. The rain dripped from her hair onto the floor. She felt shame burning in her chest, but she pushed the words out. "I will give you anything," she said. Her lips trembled. "Just one night with me. Take me, but feed her, please." The storm roared outside, but inside the house there was silence. The man's expression did not change. He only looked at her, and the longer he looked, the more she felt her knees weaken. She was ready for him to slam the door in her face. She was ready for him to laugh, or to drag her inside with cold cruelty. But the man did none of these things. Instead, he opened the door wider. His voice was deep, but strangely calm. "This is not what you think," he said. The woman froze. His words confused her. She had offered herself, she had begged, she had made the bargain, but he refused. The man stepped back and gestured to the fire inside the house. The glow of the flames painted the walls in warm color. "Come in," he said quietly. The woman hesitated. She clutched her daughter tightly. What if it was a trap? What if he wanted to play with her fear? But then she felt the girl's shallow breath against her chest. There was no choice. She stepped inside. The door closed behind her. The storm's noise was cut off. Inside, the air was warm, and the smell of food drifted from the kitchen. The child stirred, her weak body suddenly twitching at the scent. The man walked past them, silent as a shadow. He returned with bread, meat, and a steaming bowl of soup. Without looking at the woman, he placed the food on the table. "Feed her," he said simply. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She sat down and held the spoon to her daughter's lips. The child swallowed slowly, then faster, then with desperate hunger. She ate as if the food itself was life. The woman wept quietly, her hands shaking as she helped the little girl. The man stood in the corner, watching. His eyes were unreadable, like a wall. He did not touch the woman. He did not ask for her body. He only watched the girl eat until her tiny stomach was full and her head dropped into sleep. The silence grew heavy again. The fire crackled. The woman looked at him nervously. She felt shame again. Shame for what she had offered. Shame for what she had thought of him. "Why?" she asked finally. Her voice was low. "Why are you doing this? You could have taken what I promised. You could have thrown us out." Abu didn't. The man turned his eyes to the fire. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, he spoke in a voice that carried weight. "Because this house is not built on bargains," he said. "And because you must know the truth before the night ends." The woman shivered. The storm outside had stopped, but inside, her heart was filled with a different storm. A storm of fear, fusion, and questions. The man rose and looked at her one last time before walking away toward the hall. "Rest here," he said. "Tomorrow, you will understand." The woman held her daughter close, staring at the closed door where the man had gone. She felt safe, but also not safe at all. And then, from deep below the house, she heard it. A faint sound. A low whisper. It did not belong to the storm. It did not belong to the man. The sound came from the basement. The storm outside slowly died. The heavy rain turned into soft drops on the roof, but the woman did not hear peace. She sat by the fire, holding her daughter, who now slept with a full belly. For the first time in many days, the girl's face looked calm. The woman's own stomach twisted with hunger, but she ignored it. Her eyes followed the man as he moved through the house. His steps were slow, measured, almost too quiet for someone his size. He had fed her child. He had asked for nothing in return. But that did not erase the unease inside her. He placed another plate of food on the table, bread, cheese, and soup. He did not look at her. He only said, in that same calm voice, "Eat." The woman hesitated. She wanted to eat. Her body screamed for it. But something inside whispered, "Be careful. Be careful with this man." She touched the spoon. The soup was hot, the smell rich. Her lips trembled as she tasted it. The warmth filled her body, and for a moment she closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. She could not remember the last time food had tasted like this. The man finally sat down across the fire. His face remained in shadow. "You think I am a monster," he said. The woman froze. She almost dropped the spoon. How could he know her? "Thoughts? I don't," she began, but her voice was weak. "Yes, you do," he interrupted softly. "You think I will ask for your body or your life. That is what the world has taught you. That is what hunger and fear have taught you." His eyes met hers for the first time since she entered. They were not cruel. They were not gentle either. They were like deep water, too deep to see the bottom. She could not answer. She only lowered her head. Ashamed, the man's gaze shifted to the little girl. "She is safe here. Tonight, she will sleep without hunger. But tomorrow, D." Stopped. His jaw tightened, as if he carried a weight too heavy for words. "Tomorrow, you will know what kind of house you entered." The woman's breath quickened. She wanted to ask. She wanted to demand answers. But before she could, the sound returned. A low noise, muffled, coming from below the floor. The spoon slipped from her fingers and clattered against the bowl. The man's eyes turned cold. "Do not listen to it," he said. The woman's skin prickled. "What is it?" she whispered. His answer was sharp, final. "Nothing you need to fear tonight." But his voice did not calm her. It made her blood run colder. He stood up, as if ending the conversation. He walked to the shelves, pulling down an old blanket. He placed it near her chair. "Sleep by the fire. She will stay warm." The woman wrapped her daughter carefully and laid her on the blanket. She sat close, her own eyes heavy from exhaustion. The man sat in his chair, unmoving, watching the flames dot the minutes stretched. The fire cracked softly. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Every tick of silence made her more aware of the strange air around her. Finally, unable to hold it, she asked, "Why do you live alone here? Why do people fear this place?" The man did not answer at once. He stared into the fire, as if seeing memories she could not touch. "This house was not always mine," he said at last. Once it belonged to others. People who had no mercy. They used it for things that should not have been done. Her heart thudded. She wanted to know more, but he stood, ending his words with silence. Tomorrow, he repeated, you will see. The woman felt trapped between safety and fear. She had food. She had warmth. But she also had questions. And questions were often more dangerous than hunger. Her eyes closed slowly. Sleep pulled at her. She tried to resist, but her body gave in. Her head leaned against the chair. And the storm in her mind faded, but her rest was not peaceful. She dreamed of the basement. She dreamed of a door in the dark. A door that whispered her name. Come down, come down. She woke with a gasp, her skin cold. The fire had burned low. Her daughter still slept beside her. She looked around. The man was gone. His chair was empty. Her chest tightened. She rose carefully, searching the room. The door to the hall was open. The faint glow of a lantern flickered from deeper inside. The house, and then she heard it again. This time, the voice from the basement was clear. Not a whisper. A word, leave. Her blood turned to ice. She clutched her daughter and stared at the dark hall, her breath sharp in her throat. And somewhere, in that silence, she realized something terrifying. The warning was not meant for her. It was meant for the child. The morning came slowly. Pale light touched the windows, but inside the house it felt dim, as if the walls swallowed the sun. The woman opened her eyes, stiff from sleeping on the floor. Her daughter still rested peacefully beside her, wrapped in the old blanket. For the first time in many days, the girl's cheeks carried a little color. Relief washed over her, but only for a moment. The memory of the night before returned like a shadow, the whispering voice, the man's cold warning, and the emptiness of his chair when she awoke. The woman rose carefully. The house was silent, too silent. She moved through the hall, each step slow, her bare feet brushing the wooden floor. Dust clung to the corners, and the air carried a smell of damp wood and something older, something bitter. On the walls hung faded paintings, faces of people she did not know, families, children, men in dark suits. Their eyes seemed to follow her as she walked. Some frames were cracked, others scratched, as if someone had tried to erase the faces. The woman's breath grew tight. This was no simple home. She entered a long corridor. Doors lined the hallway, some half open, others locked with heavy iron latches. She touched one of the locked doors. The metal was cold, almost icy, even though the house was warmed out her hand. Pulled back quickly, as if the door itself had bitten her. Behind her, the floor creaked. She turned sharply, but nothing was there. Only silence. Her heart pounded as she whispered to herself, I must be careful. For her, for my child. She reached the end of the hall and found a staircase leading upward. The steps groaned under her weight as she climbed. At the top, dust floated in thin beams of light through small windows. A bedroom door hung open. She stepped inside. The bed was untouched, covered in white sheets yellowed with age. A mirror stood against the wall, but its glass was cracked down the center. When she looked into it, her reflection seemed broken into pieces. Her face, her eyes, her body, all scattered. On the dresser lay a photograph. She picked it up with trembling fingers. It showed a man and a woman with a little boy standing. Between them, the man's face looked familiar. She froze as realization struck. It was him, the man who now lived here. But in the photograph, he looked different, younger, with softer eyes. His arm was around the boy, and his smile was almost gentle. The woman's throat tightened. What happened to them? Where were they now? She set the picture down carefully, but as she did, a whisper brushed against her ear. Do not look. Do not stay. She spun around, heart leaping. but the room was empty. Only dust and shadows. Her knees weakened. Fear pressed against her chest, but another thought burned in her mind. The man had said, "Tomorrow you will understand." This must be part of the truth he spoke of. This house was not just shelter. It was something else, something darker. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from below. Heavy, steady, moving across the wooden floor. The woman rushed back down, her breath fast. She found him in the main room, placing more wood into the fire. He looked calm, as if nothing strange existed in the house at all. "You should not wander," he said, without looking at her. "This place remembers too much." Her voice trembled with anger and fear. "What is this place? Who are those people in the pictures, and why?" She stopped herself, but her eyes burned with a question. "Why does the house whisper?" The man finally turned, his gaze sharp as steel. For a long time, he did not speak. Then, slowly, he said, "Because the house has not forgotten what was done here. And neither have I." Her breath caught. Before she could press him further, a sound came, not from the storm, not from upstairs. From below, the floorboards shivered under her feet. The low moan rose again, deep and long, like the voice of something chained in darkness. Her daughter stirred in her sleep, whimpering as if she too heard it. The woman clutched her child close. "What is down there?" she demanded, her voice breaking. The man's face hardened. "Never go near the basement," he said. His tone was final, like a locked door. But the woman's eyes darted to the trapdoor she had not noticed before. Near the far corner of the room, a square of wood with a black iron handle. Her heart pounded. Something was alive beneath them. Something that whispered in the night and moaned in the morning. She looked back at the man. He had turned away, staring into the fire again, his expression unreadable. The woman held her daughter close, but her thoughts grew louder than her fear. She could not ignore the truth. She could not ignore the basement. The house was not safe. The fire burned low. Shadows stretched across the walls, long and twisted, as if the house itself wished to hide its face. The woman sat on the floor, her daughter wrapped in the blanket beside her, sleeping soundly. But the woman's eyes never left the man. He sat in his chair, silent, staring at the flames as if they carried secrets only he could see. Finally, her fear broke into words. "You said this house remembers. You said it was not always yours." Her voice was sharp, though her hands trembled. "Then tell me, what happened here? Why do the walls whisper? Why does the basement call?" The man did not answer at first. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. His eyes looked older than his face, filled with something heavy, something worn. "You should not ask questions you are not ready to hear," he said at last. His tone was not anger, but warning. The woman's jaw tightened. She had begged him for food. She had offered herself. She had placed her child's life in his hands. She could not bear more silence. "I carried my daughter through the storm," she whispered fiercely. "I came to your door because I had no choice. But if you mean to keep us here, then you owe me the truth." The room grew still. Even the fire seemed too quiet, its crackle softening. The man's shoulders sank. He looked not like a master of the house, but like its prisoner. Once he began slowly, "I had a family too." The woman's breath caught. "A wife, a son. This house was theirs as much as mine. We lived here in peace, until others came." His voice grew harder, colder. They were not men of kindness. They brought fear into these walls. They turned my home into a place of chains, screams, and hunger. They made it a place where the innocent begged for mercy that never came. The woman's skin prickled. She thought of the paintings, the cracked faces, the broken mirror. She thought of the voices in the night. What happened to them? She asked softly. The man's eyes flicked toward her, then away. His jaw tightened. They are gone, he said. His words were final, yet heavy with grief. The woman's chest tightened. She wanted to ask how they were gone, but the weight in his tone froze her. Instead, she whispered, "And you?" The man's voice dropped. "I survived. That is all." For a long moment, the only sound was the fire. The woman studied his face, searching for truth. But it was like looking into stone. At last he rose, his shadow stretching across the wall. "Do not think I brought you here for cruelty," he said. His eyes lingered on the sleeping child. "I would not see another family starve in these rooms. Not again." The woman's throat ached. She felt her fear fight with something else, pity. He was not just strange, he was broken, but still the question burned. "What is in the basement?" The man stopped, his hand resting on the back of his chair, went rigid. His silence was louder than words. "I heard it," the woman pressed. Her voice shook, but she forced herself to continue. "Last night, this morning. Something speaks from below. What is it?" His face turned toward her slowly. His eyes were sharp like blades. "Do not speak of it again," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "That is not a truth you want." The woman's breath quickened. Fear gripped her throat, but anger too. "You say you want to protect us. Then why keep secrets? Why lock doors? Why let my daughter sleep above a basement that whispers her name?" Man's fists clenched. For a moment, she thought he might shout. But instead, his voice dropped to almost a whisper, because some truths destroy those who hear them. The woman stared at him, her heart pounding. She wanted to scream, to demand more, but her daughter stirred, whimpering softly in her sleep. The man turned away, his back to her. "Sleep while you can. Tomorrow you decide if you trust me or if you run." He left the room, his footsteps fading into the hall. The woman clutched her daughter tightly, her mind racing. The man's past was a wound, his family gone, his home scarred. But the basement was still alive with secrets. And then, as if to mock her fear, the floor beneath her groaned. A soft voice rose again from below. "Do not trust him." Her eyes went wide. The fire flickered, and for the first time, she realized the whispers in the house were not all the same. Some belonged to the dead, but others might still belong to the living. But worse than that, she began to fear the man was not either. The night returned, heavier than the last. The storm outside was gone, but inside the house a storm of silence pressed against the walls. The woman awoke with a start. Her arms were empty. Her chest froze in terror. Her daughter was gone. The blanket lay crumpled on the floor. The fire had burned low, shadows twisting like black fingers across the walls. She rose quickly, her heart beating so loud it filled her ears. "Lila?" she whispered, her voice sharp and desperate. "Lila." No answer. Only the house breathing around her, wood creaking as if alive. She stumbled through the hall, calling again and again, fear clawing her throat. The upstairs rooms empty. The kitchen silent. The long corridor with its locked doors still, but when she reached the far corner of the main room, she saw it. The trapdoor, its iron handle glistened in the firelight, wet as if touched. The wood looked darker, heavier than before. Her stomach twisted. She had sworn never to go near it. He had warned her. But her daughter, her child, was gone, and she knew without doubt that the basement had taken her. She turned sharply. As footsteps echoed behind her, the man stood in the doorway, a lantern in his hand. His face was carved with shadow, his eyes unreadable. "Where is she?" the woman cried. Her voice cracked with rage and fear. "Where is my daughter?" The man's lips pressed into a hard line. His jaw worked as if he wanted to speak, but could not. At last, he whispered, "If you want her back, you must come down with me." The words froze the blood in her veins. She shook her head. "No, no. You promised she was safe." He stepped closer, his lantern casting long shadows across the floor. "She is safe, but not for long. The house has called her. It always calls the young. If you want her back, we go now." The woman's hands shook. She looked at the trapdoor. The whispers had grown louder. They slid across the air like cold fingers. "Come down, come down." Her breath caught. The sound was not one voice, it was many. Layers of whispers tangled together, pulling her toward the dark. Her knees weakened. She felt as if the wood beneath her feet might open like a mouth and swallow her whole. The man knelt by the trapdoor. His large hand gripped the iron handle. He looked up at her, his face grim. "Decide," he said. "Stay here and lose her, or come down and face what waits." Her heart screamed. Every instinct told her to run, to take her daughter and flee. But her daughter was below, trapped in that place of whispers. She could not leave her. The woman nodded, though her body shook. "I'm coming." The man gave a single short nod. He pulled the handle. The trapdoor creaked open. A wave of air rushed up, cold and damp, smelling of rot and stone. The lantern light flickered as if afraid to enter. Stairs descended into darkness, wooden and narrow, swallowed by shadows. The whispers grew stronger. Some called her name. Some called her daughters. The man stepped onto the first stair lantern. In hand, "Stay close," he said. Her legs trembled as she followed. The stairs groaned under her weight, each step sinking deeper into a world that did not belong to the living. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The walls were damp, covered in something that looked like old scratches, as if nails had clawed at the stone. The woman's breath came in clouds. Her skin prickled. She clutched her chest, whispering her daughter's name again and again at the bottom. The stairs opened into a wide chamber. The lantern light shook across broken cages, rusted chains, and strange marks burned into the floor. The woman's stomach twisted. This was not just a basement. It was a prison. The whispers swirled around them, louder now, voices crawling in too. Her ears, her mind. She clutched her head, shaking. "Stop it! Stop it!" She cried. The man set the lantern on a stone ledge. His face was grim, but steady. "Do not answer them. Do not listen." Her eyes darted wildly across the room. "Where is she?" And then she saw it. A small figure, standing at the far end of the chamber. Her daughter. The child's eyes were open, but they looked glassy, unfocused, as if she were asleep while standing. Her lips moved, whispering words that did not belong to her. The woman's heart broke. "Lila." She ran forward, but the man's arm shot out, stopping her. His grip was strong, almost painful. "Not yet," he said sharply. "If you touch her now, they will take you too." Her eyes filled with tears. "What do you mean? Who will take us?" The man's voice dropped to a grave whisper. "The ones this house remembers." And then, as if answering his words, the chains on the floor rattled. From the shadows, shapes began to move. Twisted, broken, no longer human. Their eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the lantern's light. The woman's blood froze. The man pulled her back, his jaw hard. "Stay behind me," he ordered. But the creatures stepped closer. Dragging chains, their voices rising in a chorus of whispers. And at the center of it all, the little girl's small voice joined them, repeating the same word over and over. "Home, Home, 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 home. The chamber shook with whispers. The woman's ears rang with them, hundreds of voices crawling inside her head, pulling her thoughts apart. Her daughter's small voice rose among them, soft and hollow, like a puppet repeating a word she did not understand. Home, home, home. The woman's knees almost gave way. She wanted to run to her child, to scoop her up and flee. But the man's grip on her arm was iron, holding her back. "Not yet," he said through clenched teeth. His eyes locked on the shadows. "If you touch her now, she is lost." Shapes moved closer. They dragged chains, their limbs twisted, their eyes glowing faintly in the lantern light. Their bodies were not whole, some bent at wrong angles. Some stretched thin like shadows given form. The woman's breath came fast. "What are they?" she whispered. The man's face darkened. "They were once like us." Her blood ran cold. "People," T nodded slowly. "Prisoners. Victims, ones who suffered here when this house was ruled by cruelty. But the house does not let them rest. It binds them to its walls, its floors, its hunger. They are not alive, but they are not dead either." The woman's stomach twisted. She stared at the broken creatures, once human, now chained to a place that would never free them. Her daughter stood among them, her lips moving with their whispers. The sight tore at her heart. "Why her?" she cried. "Why my child?" The man's eyes glimmered in the lantern's weak light. His voice was low, almost broken. "Because the house calls the young, it feeds on innocence. That is how it keeps." The whispers alive. The woman's heart cracked with fear and rage. She turned on him, her voice sharp. "And you? You live here. You stay among this evil." The man's jaw tightened. His eyes dropped. "I stay. Because I failed them once, I cannot fail again." Before she could speak, the creatures moved closer. Their whispers rose, wrapping around her like a noose. Her legs weakened. She clutched her chest, gasping for air. The man stepped forward. Lifting the lantern high, light flared, brighter than before, and the creatures shrank back, hissing softly. "They fear the flame," he said. "But light alone cannot stop them. We must break their hold." Her voice trembled. "How?" His eyes flicked to her daughter. "By pulling her free before the house swallows her completely." Her hands shook. "Then let me go to her." "No." His voice was sharp, commanding. "If you touch her now, they will bind you too. You must speak to her. Call her back with something stronger than the house." Her breath caught. She looked at her child, pale, still whispering with the dead. Her heart ached with fear. She knelt, her voice breaking. "Lila, baby, it's me. It's Mama. Come back to me." The little girl's lips did not stop. "Home, home." Tears ran down the woman's face. "No, this is not your home. I am your home. My arms, my love. That is where you belong. Please, baby, come back." For a moment, the child's whisper faltered. Her lips trembled. The creatures stirred, their voices rising louder, as if angry at the interruption. Chains rattled. The walls groaned. The air grew heavy, pressing down on her chest. The man moved closer, shielding the woman with his body. His voice cut through the whispers. "Do not stop. She hears you." The woman's voice shook with raw desperation. "Lila, listen to me. I carried you through storms, through hunger. I gave everything so you would live. Don't leave me now. Don't let them take you. Please." The girl's eyes flickered, her lips stilled. She blinked, confusion breaking through the haze. And then, a scream ripped through the chamber. Not from the child, from the shadows. The creatures lunged. Chains snapping, voices shrieking in fury. The man shoved the woman back. "Now," he shouted, "take her." The woman rushed forward, grabbing her daughter into her arms. The child's small body was cold, too cold, but she clutched her tight. Refusing to let go, the creatures surrounded them, their whispers turning to screams. Hands reached out, thin, twisted, claw-like. The man swung the lantern, the fire bursting into sudden flame. The light roared across the chamber, forcing the creatures back. Some vanished into cracks in the walls. Some shrieked and crumbled. To Ashdod, but others pressed closer, stronger than the rest. The woman screamed, holding her daughter as chains wrapped around her ankle, pulling her toward the dark. She kicked, she clawed, but the grip tightened. The man's face twisted with fury. He dropped the lantern and grabbed the chain with both hands, pulling against the weight of shadows. His muscles strained, his teeth gritted. "You will not have them!" He roared. The chain snapped. The creatures recoiled, their screams echoing through the chamber. The lantern flickered weakly on the ground. The fire was dying. The man grabbed it, lifting it high again, but his voice was grave. The woman climbed the stairs with her daughter in her arms, every step a battle against the weight of whispers dragging at her back. The man followed close behind, lantern in hand, its flame shrinking with each breath of cold air. The trapdoor came into sight, a square of wood above them, glowing faintly with the firelight of the room beyond. Relief surged in her chest, but dread pressed harder. What if the door closed before they reached it? What if the house swallowed them whole? "Faster," the man urged. His voice was strained. "The light won't last." The woman stumbled onto the last step, clutching her child to her chest. She pushed the trapdoor with her shoulder, and it opened with a loud groan. The warm air of the upper room poured over her, washing the cold from her skin. She climbed out, dragging her daughter into safety. The man followed, slamming the trapdoor shut behind him. He dropped the lantern, its flame sputtering and then dying. The whispers below vanished, cut off as if a mouth had been sealed. For a long moment, the room was silent. Only the crackle of the fire in the hearth remained. The woman sank to her knees, her arms wrapped tight around her daughter. The child stirred, her small eyes blinking open. For the first time in days, the girl's lips formed a weak smile. "Mama," she whispered. The woman wept, pressing her forehead against her daughter's hair. Relief and sorrow poured out together. The man stood nearby, his chest heaving, his face pale. He looked down at them, his eyes heavy with something unspoken. "You brought her back," he said softly. The woman lifted her head, her tear-streaked face burning with both gratitude and fury. "No," she said, her voice breaking. "We brought her back. You could have let us die, but you didn't." The man's jaw tightened. He looked away, as if the words cut him deeper than she knew. She wanted to ask him everything about his family, about the creatures, about why he chose to stay in this cursed house. But before she could, he walked to the fire and added more wood. His back to her. "This house is not just stone and wood," he said quietly. "It remembers, it punishes. But it also protects those who fight it. Tonight, you fought it. And so it has accepted you." The woman frowned. "Accepted me? What do you mean?" He turned, his dark eyes steady. "You came here with nothing. You offered yourself because the world left you no mercy. But this house, it does not want your body, it wants your strength, your will to protect what you love. That is the only price it asks." The woman's heart twisted. She thought of the voices, the chains, the faces of the creatures below. Once, they too had been people who loved. Once, they too had fought. But the house had trapped them. "Why? Do you stay?" she asked softly. His expression hardened. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then, he said, because this is where my family is buried. Their memories, their voices. They are part of the house now. I cannot leave them, but I can make sure no one else is lost. The woman's chest ached. She looked at her daughter, asleep again in her arms, her small body safe and warm. Then she looked at the man alone, broken but still standing guard over a place full of ghosts. She whispered, "And what of us? Will you send us away?" The man shook his head slowly. "Not if you choose to stay. This house has many rooms, more than enough for a mother and child, and perhaps for something like a family again." Her breath caught. For the first time since she had knocked on his door, she did not feel only fear. She felt the edges of hope. She glanced at the trapdoor. The iron handle glinted in the firelight. She knew the whispers would return. She knew the house was never truly safe, but she also knew that out in the world there was only hunger, cruelty, and storms. Here, at least, there was warmth. Here her daughter could eat. Here she would not face the darkness alone. She looked at the man. His eyes met hers. For a moment, the firelight softened his face. Not cruel, not dangerous, simply tired. The woman nodded. "We will stay." The man gave no smile, but his shoulders eased, the weight in his posture softening. He sat back in his chair by the fire, watching the flames while the woman laid her daughter down on the blanket. She sat close, her hand resting on her child's chest, feeling each steady breath. For the first time in years, she felt something close to peace. But as her eyes closed, she could not ignore one thought. Peace in this house was never simple. From the trapdoor, faint and distant, a single whisper rose again. "Papa." The woman froze. Her eyes flicked to the man. He did not move. He did not react. He only stared into the fire as if he had heard it all his life. The woman shivered, holding her daughter tighter. This was their new home, and like every home, it came with secrets that would never sleep.